Hay que adelantarse a...
Claro, siempre él decía que era a lo que, es como decir,
It is
tú
always
vas a un
like to
restaurante
say, when you go
y
to
tú
a
sabes que te vas a sentar
restaurant
y pedir la comida y vas a comer,
and you're going to sit down and order your food and you're going to
pero la
eat.
logística de
But the
cómo tú
logistic of how
llegar,
you
tienes
get
que meterte
there,
un carro,
you have to
tienes
get
que
in a
meterte
car, you have to get
calle,
dressed at the
vas para
house, you have to
pararte
get
frente a la
into a car, you have to turn
sentarte a pedir
around
la
to
orden.
stand up and open
La
the door,
logística de
see?
eso en el
Sit
camino
down and ask
tú
for the
la,
order and everything.
La
The
recuerdo.
logistic of
te
that,
acoplas. La
you
finalidad es
adjust
comer.
it along the way,
La finalidad
but
de
the
de
purpose
esa
is
visión
to
de la
eat.
carpa es todo lo que va a estar ocurriendo.
The finality of
Lo
the
que
10
vaya a
visions is
ocurrir
everything that is
en
going
el
to be
proceso para que
happening.
llegue a eso,
Whatever is
y
going
en
to
el
happen in the
camino
process of getting
uno va
there,
desenvolviéndose.
it
Por eso
goes
te
on
decía,
unfolding on the way. That
cuando
is
vayas
why he would say to
la
me,
por la
when
conveniencia
you
que te vaya llevando
see, for the
a
convenience
ese
that will
momento,
take you
vas a ir realizando
there
las
to
cosas.
that moment, you will
Y no
carry
lo vas a
out
hacer
things.
porque, no, tiene que
It is
ser
not
así,
going to be
y
because,
cuando
no,
llegue
it's
ese
got to
momento,
be
pues
this
llegó.
way. When that
Entonces tiene
time
que haber un
comes, well,
proceso
it came.
de,
Before
por
that,
ejemplo,
there has
vamos
to
a
be a
decir
process, for
del
example,
cerco de los,
the stretched canvas of
hay que
canvas fence.
comprarla,
Well, there,
el tubo que se va
A,
a poner ahí. Ahí
someone
no te
has
dice,
to
tiene
buy
que
it.
usar expansión
B,
tal para
the
poner la
pipe that
base
is
del
going to
tubo.
be placed there.
Se vio una lora
It
estirada,
doesn't
pero
tell
lo que
you,
llevó
C,
a poner la
you have to
lona es
use
a
such
cumplir un
expansion to
propósito.
place the base of
Yo
the
no sé si
pipe.
me sigue,
A stretched canvas was
claro,
seen,
entonces,
but what
¿cómo
it
aquí? O
took
sea,
to place the
pues mira, yo te
canvas
lo he
is
dicho,
our business. I
ella
don't know if
viene,
you
yo le
follow
enseñé,
me.
le mostré
Do I
todo y ella
explain
me dijo,
myself?
bien grande,
Worker says everything has a
y
beginning.
él le dijo,
Benji,
y
of
esto se va a
course.
llenar,
So it is like here, that when
todo eso se va a
Santita, I've
llenar,
always said it, she
y
came
lo que
one
tú
day and I
quieres
showed
hacer
her. I
provisiones
showed her
de más
everything.
cosas,
And she said,
¿verdad? Vamos a
William,
hacer
that is a
provisión de más
big
cosas.
place.
Todos los
See?
procesos para
And he
llegar a
said,
ese cumplimiento
all of that is going to
son
be
procesos que van
packed, full.
a
So if
hacer
this
que
place
se
is going to be
cumpla
packed,
eso
then we have to make
por
provision
ejemplo,
for more
la
things.
puertita del
See?
cuartito ese,
We are going to make
eso
provision
se
for
hizo
more
ayer,
things. All the processes to reach
hacer el
that
cuartito en la
point,
esquina,
they are processes that are going to make that fulfilled at the end. For example, the little gate that was made in the middle of the fence.
que
He
para
said,
el
no,
sonido,
you're not going to make me the gates on the
solo un
corners.
botoncito ahí,
And I said,
no pasa
okay,
algo
but Brother William,
para el
notice,
botoncito, le decía yo,
what I'm trying to say is the distance is so far
si
that
quieres,
for
para eso
those that
tienes
work with the sound,
te conviene,
just to make a little gate there,
ponlo,
even for someone to get to the pulpit.
que
And he said, do you
ves que
see?
tú en el
That
camino,
is for
no es que el hermano
convenience.
Branham haya visto
It
una
will be good to
perplejidad,
have the gate there. Make it.
a lo mejor
And what was he
a lo mejor
showing
lo pudo
me?
haber dicho,
That along the
pero
way, it
no
is not that
era
Brother Branham saw
algo
a gate
que
in
era
the
necesario
middle.
decirlo,
Maybe he could have said it, but it wasn't something that needed to be
porque el
said.
cerco de la
But
esquina,
he spoke of the most important
la del
ones.
medio,
There is a
eso
door in the
correspondía a los que
corners.
estaban ahí, la
The one in the
logística,
middle,
que
that
era nosotros,
pertained to
viene
those
esa
who were
puertita
there
ahí,
in the
y nosotros tenemos que
logistic,
caminar hasta allá
which
abajo
was us.
para
It
no
is
saltar tampoco,
convenient
porque no
for
va a
us
quedar
to
en el
make that
medio
little
el
gate
cerco,
there,
¿me entiendes?
so we don't have to walk all the
Y
way
ese
down to the
también
corners.
que para
And
no
another
tener que dar
thing,
la vuelta,
someone might come and
nunca
jump
pasa,
over the fence. Do you understand?
pueden perder
Jump
tiempo,
over it
quieren
so
pasar
they
la
don't have to
vueltita.
go around. Someone might
O sea que
just
en el
do that.
camino
So why was that little
todo
gate
se va
made?
viendo
For
la
our own
necesidad.
convenience, see?
Y como tú ves,
Because along
si
the
lo que hace
way,
ahora,
one
va a
sees that
esperarlo
it
al
is
momento que llegue
needed.
para
And it is like all of
Dale.
this. If you don't make it now, are you going to wait for that time to
hay que
arrive to
hacerlo. Se
then?
va a llenar,
Well, we have to make it.
se
Because
va a
if this
llenar.
place is going to get full,
La
and it's
necesidad
going to get full because of a
es
need, a demand,
cuando,
when
cuando ellos hablan,
when the ones sent by God
lo que hablan
speak, whatever they say
en el tiempo en que están viviendo,
in the time in which they are
el plan de
living,
Dios siempre tiene
it always
cumplimiento,
has a fulfillment
los dos,
on both
espiritual
aspects,
y el de
spiritually and physically.
porque
Because
esa
since
dimensión,
that
como es
dimension is
hablada,
spoken,
como es hablada,
since it is spoken,
viene a ser el repetidor de lo que
comes to
ya fue
be
visto.
the repeater of what was already
Y al
seen.
hablarse acá,
And it is spoken here since it's the spoken word.
no puede
It
caer
cannot fall on the ground.
de alguna forma.
It has to be fulfilled somehow.
Y por eso es que
And that is why he said,
decía que yo
I do nothing
que lo vea primero
without first seeing the Father do it.
y ahí es que oraba.
And that is when he
Y otra,
worked.
hermano Branham también hacía
And
eso.
another, Brother Branham also did that.
Y
The
él
angel
hacía
showed
exactamente
him,
lo
and
que
he
el
did
ángel le
exactly
decía.
what the angel told him to
Y el
do.
ángel entonces lo cumplía.
And the angel then fulfilled it.
Y así va a ocurrir
And it will happen like that
de la visión de
in
la
that time of the 10th vision, in its full fulfillment.
que va a estar
It
obrando.
is God who will be working there.
Como él le muestra,
And as he shows him, That's exactly how it will be done. Now, what he's showing him is the revealed word.
Por eso que tú ves que todas
That
las
is why you
escrituras
see that all the scriptures
toman lugar y
take place and fall into place so well because it is him.
no somos nosotros.
It is not us, it is him.
Uno ve la mano de él
And one sees his hand in everything, how the scriptures are coming into line.
cuando de momento se va
And when all of a sudden the picture opens there, something that was hidden.
ayer decía
That is why I was saying yesterday,
40 años, 50 años escuchando.
40 years, 50 years listening to the message, and it's not going to give you the rapturing faith. But how is that? You're saying something there hard, let's say.
Que así es.
That is the way it is.
Puedes estar 60
You can be 60 years listening to the same thing.
si no tienes
If you don't have this final part,
no va a
it is not going to produce the rapturing faith. It is not going to come.
mismo que allí dijeron.
The same ones that said that they were in the time of Jesus, they believed the same thing. They said, "Our father Abraham, we believe Moses."
Comieron del maná.
They ate of the manna on the wilderness and they all died.
¿De qué le valió?
What good did it do to them if he wasn't receiving the fulfillment of what he prophesied,
Él habló
of what he spoke,
la venida de
which was the coming of one who would appear in the midst of the Hebrew people?
como yo levantar el
The Lord raised up a prophet like me, and the word was there being fulfilled, and they didn't see it.
ciego, no hay forma.
See, the one who is blind, there is no way.
La mayoría de los
And then when he joins someone, he is also blind. That is why the saying, if one blind leads another blind, both fall into the ditch.
no se unen.
And it is because they don't unite with the one who is seeing. If they will join the one that is seeing, then they will quickly see the program.
Anoche
Last night, there was a part that I was seeing, an excerpt from 2004
la vida
of the life of Joseph, Mary's husband.
y eso podemos
And
semana
this week we can elaborate on that
porque José
because Joseph,
en diferentes
in different angles,
yo hablé algo de los 40
I talked something about the 45 years Joseph was when,
otro lado
but on the other hand,
traste hermano
there in that excerpt, Brother William says that Joseph wasn't in the ministry of Jesus.
después de los 12 años
After the age of 12 years, he doesn't appear anymore.
aparece hasta los 12
He appears up to 12 years old.
padre y
When she said, "Your father and I were looking for you,"
después no se menciona
then it is not mentioned anymore.
dice que en el ministerio
And he says that in the ministry of Jesus, neither in the apostles later on, nor on the day of Pentecost, does the word Joseph appears. So Joseph, he says there, belongs to the Old Testament.
podemos hablar más
And he says there, we'll talk about that later, because there is a great treasure there. But notice
qué otro ángulo hay ahí
another angle that is there,
al no estar
that Joseph,
presente en el
by not being present in the full ministry of Jesus
y pertenecer
and belonging to the dispensation of the law,
porque si él
because if he is of the Old Testament, there was the law. He didn't belong to the grace like Lazarus.
que Lázaro
That Lazarus died but resurrected and became part of the mystical body.
así también
Likewise,
el hermano William no está
Brother William wasn't present
presente en su cuerpo
in his physical body
en el ministerio
in this present time ministry.
por ende en su cuerpo
Therefore, in his physical body, he belongs to the dispensation of the grace,
no a la disposición
not to the dispensation of the kingdom.
y Gabriel
And when Gabriel appeared to the Virgin Mary and to the priest Zechariah was in the dispensation of the law.
y el que aparece
And the one who appears in the dispensation of the kingdom is Michael. See?
ve que hay algo ahí
That there is something big there.
quieres saber
¿Cómo? Ay, Señor.
eso cuando
I'm going straight now to search for it,
a empezar a buscar eso
to begin to look for that, because there is something there. Because they are the two archangels who represent one the Old Testament and the other the New. The same with the ministries of Moses and Elijah. The same. The same as the bride with the Hebrew people. See, everything is dual, always. The birthright blessing is double. Everything is.
siendo el
And how he, being Jesus' adoptive father,
que no era su hijo
because it wasn't his son, just like William wasn't my father. But in the spiritual part, I became an adoptive son.
Que me acuerdo una vez que dijiste, yo vine a ser lo que mi padre espiritual.
Sí, porque él una vez dijo, me dijo, la que está acá, la hermana de
Once,
Chantón, no, de Altagracia,
Altagracia,
Altagracia, la hermana de Chaparro,
Chaparro's sister,
ella me dijo que
she said to me that
ella dice que fue
Brother
mensaje
William
que
said,
buscado
and she said it was in the message. I looked for it, but
que
I haven't.
no me
That
llamó
Brother William didn't call me son
porque Humberto estaba
because
vivo,
Humberto was alive,
pero que una vez que
but that once Humberto was gone,
ahí me llamaría
then he would call me son.
y eso
And that, with this now regarding Joseph,
algo hay ahí
there is something there that is also,
ese es otro ángulo
that is another
de
angle,
José
Joseph's
que
life,
representa
what it
muchas
represents,
cosas, pero
because it can represent many
ese que
things.
estuvo ahí al final,
It represents the one that was there at the end
la presencia de
with
Gabriel.
Gabriel's
Yo tenía
presence.
45 años
And I was 45 years old when that happened.
más también puede representar
It can
esa
also
parte
represent that part
de él
of him as a father
padre
and not being the ministry now. See,
es diferente.
it has different angles.
Como que me acuerdo una vez que papi me había
Worker
contado algo.
says, I remember
No me
that
acuerdo
dad
quién
said
le había
something
dicho,
to
porque
me
el hermano William los estaba
that I
viendo
don't know who told
a
him,
ti, a
but
papi,
Brother William
como de
was
chamaquito.
looking at you and dad when you were
Y
kids.
no me acuerdo qué estaban diciendo,
And I
pero
don't
dijo,
remember what it was
yo
said,
le di
but
gracias a Dios
I think
que
he said that
me dio estos hijos.
I give thanks to God for giving me these sons.
Y después le puedo
I
preguntar
don't
a papi,
remember
porque
well,
no
but
me
we can
acuerdo.
ask dad.
Cosas que
Benji
pasaron de
says,
pequeño
things that happened since we were kids and we did not understand them at that time, but now we indeed know.
se entiende todo bien ahora que está todo bien.
Now is that everything is being
Ahora todo
open.
encaja, es lo que estamos hablando ahorita. Todo encaja, todo
Todo
cuadra.
cuadra.
Now everything falls in its place.
Y yo le decía a usted que yo no entendía por qué el hermano William decía que el arcángel Gabriel iba a precursar la segunda venida de Cristo.
Worker says, we didn't understand. Benji says, look how clear it is now. Worker says, before all of this began to be seen as we see it now, every time we talk to you, Joshua and I would say like, there is something going on. There is something different on him. And we said, he can't just be a simple pastor. We were like, there is something there. And every day we felt it more until God opened our understanding.
Amén.
Benji says, it is in a simple way.
Él en esto él dice que
Did you see yesterday
presentará o
in an excerpt that he says that Elijah will introduce or lead you to the Messiah? Because the Messiah is a person anointed with the Spirit of God. What happens is that people get or stumble over that, maybe. But he would always say to me, Benji, tell them, explain to them that the Messiah is an anointed person. And when he would say that things were going to be fulfilled in him, or he would speak indirectly and it looked like it was him, just like Brother Branham spoke that and you thought it was him. The one who spoke was the one inside of him. If that veil of flesh would leave, then he will continue going forward because he is
Lo que
eternal.
había dicho él y ahí
Worker
lo que
says,
Eliseo.
the same with Elijah. Elijah spoke and Elisha came to fulfill it. Benji says, the same, everything moves parallel. What happened is that now it was such a great manifestation of the archangel in our midst, in a simple way also, that everybody thought it was in him. But of course, if he wasn't, a lot would have risen saying, well, if this is not the one, then it is me. Because they think that I know more, so it's got to be me. And they divert the attention of the people, as it happened with Brother Branham. That he began to show the first and the second pull, and instead of the pastors focusing the people to him, no, I can do it also. I can do it. And they diverted the attention of the people. But now, he focused everything on him, so that the whole world would focus on him. And now, when everything he said comes forth to be fulfilled, no one can come out and say me. They get stuck. Then what they are going to do is, no, they can't be, and then they fight. The truth, what is real, It's the fulfillment of what he talked about for years. He kept it so hidden. Notice, if there is a secretive man, it is Brother William. Well, because the angel who was with him said, "You are not going to say anything about this to anyone." And when he scolded him hard, "What I told you not to do, that's what you did." He spoke to him, as he says, with love, but with authority. "You're not going to say anything about it." So he said, "What he told me there, I have to keep it with me." So therefore, notice, when he tells him what he told me there, what do you understand by that? That there was a conversation there with somebody. Something was happening there, because he says, "What he told me there, I will have."
Y ese que estaba allí veía
Of
eso.
course, the things are going to be moving, and there is where all this preparation, they cannot then come and say, "Nobody told me nothing about it," because the same thing that happened to Aaron's son is going to happen, entering to the most holy place with strange fire. And that of strange fire, there are so many things that represent what a strange fire is. From lies, from hatred, from jealousy, from arguments, from all that is a strange fire. And there is going to come a time when God is going to be working in a certain way that there may be people who will fall dead. Because the same thing happened, and this testimony, I'm going to record it from Tirso. We were in Guatemala, and Brother William wouldn't come up. And Miguel, he used to say, "William, William." And that time, do you remember? And they would clap because there was no song. Or it was "Wake Up Now" was on. One of those two events. And Brother Miguel sent Tirsa to go to see if he had fallen asleep. And Tirsa opened the door. And he said to him, "If there was a manifestation of God here, you would drop dead right now." The recklessness of him there opening the door. Now, that can also happen if the same thing happens inside the church, to which has already been told how the person should act and how they should be before God and everything. Even if they come with their faces turned, as Brother Branham says there. Those who are there and don't know why they come, it is better that they stay at home. But all that, at some point, if they do not get straight, they can fall into that of the sons of Aaron. They come to the most holy place of God with strange fire, and they may fall down burnt. The first thing that happens is the spiritual death, just like the last plague in Egypt, death. And we have been saying it so that then they won't say. But notice, just by saying to a person, we spoke of it yesterday, tell him that I'm not here, and he left. We have all done that. Tell him I'm not here. That simple lie kept that baby from being healed. And he compares it to healing. It wasn't even because something went wrong with some business or something else went wrong. No, it had to do with healing. In other words, for the healing of our body, there can't be no sin. Not even that, which was through a third person, because it wasn't even him. Go and tell him. That is, he sent his wife to lie. And then the boy, do you want me to say the same thing? See how sin, he says there that it corrupts. Now, if that is like that in a man like Brother Branham, who never misbehaved, imagine where the people will be standing today. That is why in this time, Brother William had to be among the people in the way he was, because if not, he would have remained alone. In other words, nothing would be fulfilled because the people is a sinful people, and how would they make it?
No, eso
But
mucho.
thanks to God for this extra time he gave us, because if not, people wanted to get there like that, not logically, not even by common sense, tells you that you will reach that transformed body and see the sixth dimension being the way you are. It's not even logical. And even so, there are some who are still like, no, this way I am fine, or I don't have to change anything, because I have already received the messenger, the message, I don't need anything else. Not even by logic can a person being in that way reach the adoption. No, it just can't be. But since it is for the chosen one, and it can't be otherwise, the one who is chosen, he will faithfully follow the instructions and obedience. That is the important thing, to be obedient. And if he doesn't understand, then he keeps quiet. What is the point of talking? What is it? To condemn himself more? But what did you get by it? How does it satisfy you? I don't get it. Not even as a good businessman. Not even a good businessman. By being a good businessman or entrepreneur, let us say, he knows that there is a business that is not going to be, he finds a way, a procedure. I'm going to speak against it, but what is it going to be the satisfaction on that? Since what I'm striving for is my adoption. If I speak against it, I'm speaking, pronouncing negative things. And that doesn't go with a person that's going to be adopted. Therefore, I have to keep quiet. How can there be hatred, resentment, root of bitterness, and such things in someone who is waiting for adoption? It can't be. That is already a fifth-dimensional spirit to begin with. It can't be someone who is connected with the sixth dimension, because the sixth dimension doesn't have any of that. Those are the requirements that the one who is the chosen one has to fulfill the requirement of remaining with the things from the sixth dimension. We should all reflect that is there. There can't be nothing, but I mean nothing from the fifth dimension. And by meaning nothing is nothing. There can be nothing that can... Well, he says there in a part that if your left hand offends you, cut it off. That is, he speaks of many things there. It is like when he speaks about not marrying an unbeliever or no one who is an unbeliever. And then he writes at top, under no circumstances. And you say, but what circumstances can it be that would compel you to marry an outsider? A child, that she has become pregnant, and that you say, since I had a child, I am going to have to marry her. The responsibility is to support him, because you're not going to leave him there to die after you messed up. That is one of the circumstances. But you talk about that and they say, oh, look at this one. Now he doesn't want to. But under no circumstances, that covers all. No, it's because I love her. Another circumstance. Then stop loving her. I'm going to have to give up the house because we were living in the same house and now it is going to kick me out. And so leave. Then, in other words, they are circumstances. If it is under no circumstances, it is under no circumstances. And if someone does it, it is then in the permissive. There are consequences. There is a part where he says that he would be fulfilling half of the type of Christ and his church. He will not be fulfilling the type and figure completely. Yesterday's message is a message for one to break it down. And the one from Friday, from Thursday until now, something was moving. did you see there? Elijah caught the attention of the widow.
le dijo, espérate, pero sírveme a mí.
He said,
Y
hold up,
hay otra línea
serve
más
me
que-
first.
hay tantas que uno
And there is
pero
another
coge
line
una, y aún así mira todo el tiempo que
that there are so many.
que estaba parado
Take one by one, and even so, look at all the time it takes. However, notice where he was standing, at the door. That is the way that has to be, through a door. And there when he said to her, just believe in me, serve me, put me first. And there she lacked nothing. As the church will lack nothing regarding the revealed word in this time, because they are placing first the work, the stage, because it is something that what we need is that, to first put the word, the revealed word, and then the miracles will come. Those are placing their hope in the miracles first and not on the door.
Hace seguidores de señales también.
Of
Esa-
signs, yes. We are putting the word first. First, through the instrument that God sent. And then, after that, the miracles will come. He talked about that at the end in the last excerpt I read to you, so that you know and are aware that first is going to be the word and then the miracles. But then they say, no, because when he comes back, then he will preach. Where has that happened in the past? Even by logic. They are limiting God in the things that he's going to fulfill. Because you place him again in blazer and a tie, standing in front of a microphone again. How are you going to limit a body like that in our midst? When Jesus appeared, he showed them and opened the scripture to them. Notice the different angles that that part of Jesus has. He opened the scripture to them. He opened their understanding. It was Jesus himself. The same thing that is happening now. It is he who is carrying out the work. But if you notice it from another angle, it was the day of Pentecost with the disciples. Jesus wasn't there. Paul, Paul, why persecutest thou me? It was him, but he didn't come again to stand with people. Come over here, let's preach to you over there on the side of the mountain, sit there. For as he preached to 5,000 there, they ate. No, he didn't do that work like that in that glorified body. It is a difference, glorified. Because now, in these bodies, we are going to be living what Jesus lived, what Brother Branham lived. Who could say, let a squirrel appear there, or that he could stop the storm, or that he could save some children. The children of Sister Hattie Wright. Stop the sun. Those are the ministries of Moses and Elijah, that they have power over nature. But all of that, because with an eternal body like that, it's going to be something easy. But in these bodies, to be able to do all that, that is a unique experience. Like the one we are going to be seeing, or are seeing in these days, a comet. 50,000 years that it takes to happen. We will not go through that experience again in these bodies. Likewise, while being in these bodies, is the last experience we are going to have of the power of God in us. Worker said, that indeed is a privilege. Benji says, tell me about it. Boy, that God trusts you and me with his power. It is like when you trust someone with a car that you just bought, or trust someone with the key to your home. So he entrusted the key to his own heart, because it is his power in us. And to have that power, knowing how to use it, because we're not going to be like doing whatever we want, but we are going to be directed. But it is like having, we are going to be like having a walkie-talkie. I'm talking to you and you're over there with the other walkie-talkie. But the one who doesn't have that can't hear anything. But I can tell you, come here, and go there. How can people be moving in the middle of a group and only those people move because they heard the commandment of the one that is talking? Something like that is going to happen. So imagine, come here, let's go. We will be able to listen to each other, to talk to each other, because we will be in this faster dimension. There will be no limitations at all. Subconscious and conscious together, but in these bodies. It is a great power.
Amén.
Don't you think that to lead a group of people like it was, and you see the vision, everything is so organized, that is not just done by anybody. There is a guideline and an order. And by that time, there has to be adopted children of God. At least one is already adopted. They must,
Amén.
then must go on seeing. Because the adoption is like the resurrection, he says. Look how the resurrection moves. In other words, there is a process. They will be resurrecting. And for sure, the transformation will also be like that for the ones that are seen first. The rapturing faith is based on the knowledge of the coming of the Lord, based on how God is fulfilling it, as was the first coming. To be able to believe that gives you access to have the theophany, and we already have it. Now, to gain access to the adoption, to the transformation, it is to believe, because you always have to be based on someone, on something. And that is what is difficult for the human being who is not going to be adopted, transformed, to believe. The first thing they will say is, it can't be. It is impossible for that to be it. But I saw him installing a door at home when I was younger. He made the cabinets of the vanity for me. All of that in such a simple way. And one talks about it because that is how it is. How can it be? Because this one was with me doing this. We went to such and such a place and here and there. Well, that's the one God chose to fulfill his promises. What do you want me to do? Fight with God then? Go to the beginning and tell him to change the blueprint? The blueprint was already done. There is no way to change that sheet anymore. That musical piece is going to be played because it is going to be played. That eighth note, the higher note, he either plays it or plays it. Someone cannot come and tell the conductor to change that musical sheet and here play this one. Nope. God has already chosen that person and God is going to help him to fulfill the purpose for which he has already been chosen. And he is helping us and he will continue to help us because it is his work, it is him, it is his program. Therefore, he has to be watching over it so that it is fulfilled. And he is the one who is guiding us. He will lead us to the faithful fulfillment of the 10th vision, what everyone longs for. The tent is already made. The people are there. The messenger is there. The message is there. What is missing? He is waiting for the people, see? All these things that are being talked about is to move forward. He is ready. It is we who are not. We could begin some things, but what is it worth it to see so that then they will be believing by signs? Rather, like when he would tell me, you will know when. Wait. That wait, as I'm seeing, may be possible soon. But as long as the people continue like this, that they are some here, some there, that shaking, the word has been given. But if they don't enter into that desperation and there isn't something that really shakes the people, God cannot move on to that other stage. And unfortunately, from what we talk about and can see, and as anyone may say, but he keeps talking about that. Well, what we spoke about is death. And when death begins to happen, sadness will come in. But at the same time, that's what makes people walk straighter. then what seems to be something sad for the church
algo triste para
will
ellos,
be something
ser algo de bendición.
of blessing,
Porque entonces siempre
because then the people will straighten up,
y ahí entonces
and then there God will work
para que entre ya
so that this stage begins. After the fulfillment of his coming is clear, regarding the fulfillment of it and the people understanding it from that point at any moment. That is the key. It is the revelation of the seventh seal. Once it is already clear with the people and they believe,
ya ahí no hay
there will be no more barriers. But until that comes, if it has to happen,
por lo que se ve
as far as we see, it is going to happen. Because if it is in the days of Ananias and Sapphira
y es en una carta,
that are repeated and it is in the tent,
por ende
therefore, it will be fulfilled. They are going to lie too.
vida era mentira también,
Lying will also take place.
como algunos
Like some who said, they believed, and then they didn't believe. And what they have done is to fight. Well, now they are going to be paying the price, because not only did they lie,
se volvieron
they also turn against it. In other words,
más juicio.
they receive more judgment than the one who was sincere and said, look, I don't believe,
Sigan para adelante.
openly, but he went ahead. That one may come out better. But the one who,
Colmo mintió,
to top it off, lied,
especialmente también a
mainly to Brother Miguel,
y después le da
and then stabs him in the back and leaves,
se va a tener una gran
that one will have serious consequences.
porque piensan
Because they think this is a game.
que creen que
Because they believe that by having Brother William and his message,
ya con eso
that they have everything with it.
la tremenda
They will be greatly surprised. And don't believe that there are just a few of them. There are many.
que están callados
And there are others who are quiet. They say nothing, but it is something else on the inside.
las intenciones,
But since God discerned the intentions from the heart,
todo queda oculto.
everything hidden is not. All things are open. See?
Pero es lo que Dios nos ha
But what God has given us is something so great, but so great
lo busca para
that one looks for it to try to, wow, it is something that
todo lo que desearon
everything that the prophets long for
todos los tiempos.
at all times, and that now we are living it and feeling it. Imagine of from 2 million people, 2 entered. From
Egipto y
Egypt,
Josué y Caleb,
and 2 went in, Joshua and Caleb. Of course, from 20 years old and under, they entered. Worker said, the one who were born on the way entered. Benji says, on the way, but of those who came out, only 2. Imagine. It is like when he said there in that part that he says that, give me a church that there are 100 or 200 people left. Something like that. But that is well. In other words, I'm going to check, but in the Branham Tabernacle there, I went there. There is no room to seat 200 people.
mira donde él estaba mirando.
That is, he was looking ahead, forward. And if you notice, more or less, they are still around. Not that there will be, there are more, but more or less that is the number of the people here who can be steadfast or firm. The rest may be sympathizers, others who come to listen, to go to a place and have a place on Sunday. That is why the saying, it is not all that are here, neither are they all here. Is that how it goes? It is something like that. Yes, because the group that is going to be adopted is a selected group. It's the one that one says, how can one knows that? When they manage to see past the door,
Si no es
if the door is not an obstacle for you,
usted está más
you're way inside.
Amén. Gracias, Señor.
Because after you cross that door and you see everything God is doing, carrying out, that gives you such an assurance. It is very important because if you get stuck there, then you can't see what's in the inside. You will not receive anything if you stay outside. They will be, like Brother William says, like the lizard's ears. They hear in one side and goes out through the other ear. And those that stumble with that door, it comes in through one ear and goes out the other. It doesn't reach their soul, because since they are not entering through the door, they stumble with it, with that image. I haven't found a place where he says, if I could hide myself. There is a few places in the book of quotations, but there is one place where he says, if I could hide and not be seen, because the issue is always the veil. If I could only hide myself. Well, in a certain time, that is going to come. That what they are going to hear is the voice. But notice how God has been helping us, and we are familiar with audio. And anyone would say that we are going backwards. But since it is a prophecy that is going to be fulfilled, well, it is used. And sees that it is easier even to download it through the application, and it is not heavy. And now when you say, listen to the audio, it is something normal. When the time comes that maybe you will not even see anything, but you will be listening. Therefore, notice, when Brother Branham, one of the many times when he was in Cairo to go to Israel, he says he felt and heard, it's not your time, go back. And he said, but who must have spoken to me? See that God always uses the voice? In the Garden of Eden, he heard the voice, where art thou, Adam? He says he heard the voice of God seeking him. And you look for another place in the midst of the bush. What did Moses hear? The voice. He saw no one there. The voice that came forth when Jesus was being adopted. He saw no one who was speaking there. Who was speaking there? A voice. In the sixth dimension, Brother Branham says, I didn't know where the voice came from. Then later he sees him there, the angel. So, the voice is the first thing that we are going to hear. And then those theophanies will come in. Nobody's going to be noticing, but that is why he says, they are there and they are not. He said something like that. It is something with the voice that the chosen one is going to listen to. For my sheep hear my voice and they follow me. It doesn't say my sheep see and hear. No, they hear the voice. And that is going to be with the individual as a person. They will be listening. Yep. And that, we are getting used to that. To the voice. Whoever listens to it. Notice, we are now, notice, the brethren. Oh, an audio is up. And you see how, let's listen to it. Others, again with that. They don't pay attention to that voice. When one is talking about things, and another little bit, another little bit, another little bit, at the end, the purpose of all of this is the adoption. Hey, but I listened to this one and that one and that one. Yeah, but you listen to this and that to criticize. That little part that you criticize. Because most of the time, look at the minute so to hear what he said. So then to speak about that. Now, they will not be able to look for the adoption in that way, because it is by revelation. They will not be able to obtain the same by getting audios and listening. Those are the ones that will be knocking at the door. In other words, they will be knocking in the fulfillment of the coming of the Lord. Now they will indeed knock, but before they didn't even look at the door. That is why, notice, They will want to enter through the door through which those that had oil entered. And notice, they didn't go to knock at another door. If you notice, it doesn't say they went to knock at the dispensation of the age of Laodicea or the age of Wesley. They came to knock at the door because that is where the wise virgins were, and they said, go and get yourselves oil. In other words, they were there with us, and they knocked at the door. At which door? The door of the coming of the Lord. By knocking there, then indeed, at that moment, they recognized who he was. They knew he was the one who gave the oil. They knocked, but the door was already closed. And he even says there that, I know you not. Do you know what that is? He rejected them. He despised them. Then they have to give their lives in the Great Tribulation. And they will not have the opportunity to be in the millennium, because they will all rise after it, after the millennium. That is why all of them, because there is not even one. Those who have risen against and all those who haven't accepted the door, the veil, all of them, they are not going to obtain the blessing of passing to the millennium. If they go through the Great Tribulation and enter the millennium alive, they die and are resurrected afterwards, because God doesn't want unbelievers in the millennium, period. None of them. That is why the 144,000 are sealed before. But since they did not receive the Lord at his first coming, they don't have the sacrifice. So they have to enter through purification, as the earth, as the foolish will do. But they will indeed have the opportunity to enter into the millennium, because they are resurrected after the Great Tribulation. They are the only ones who are resurrected after the Great Tribulation to be the eunuchs of the church. Look at that. Some have the opportunity, and others, they will not have the opportunity. Because since they will believe in the other mercy seat, automatically, by believing in the latter rain, they believe in the mystery of the second coming, and they will understand the first. But since the door of the first is already closed, they automatically have to go through the tribulation to be purified, but under the mercy seat. The foolish ones, they do not have that opportunity. Even though they have a time to know, because notice that the denominational world, when they see everything, they will believe. But they have to be purified, purged, but not to enter to the millennium, but afterwards. And if they come out well in the final judgment. All this will depend on the intentions of their heart. The hundredfold, notice how we always understood, and in the messages you heard of 30 to 60 and 100-fold, which are the chosen ones who will be adopted. And look how now the chosen one, the adopted one, cannot be less than 100-fold. And he places 60-fold the 144,000, and the 30-folds the rest. In other words, he places there the foolish. There he also places those of this time who are not believing it. He places them in that group. They produce some fruit, but not the fruit for adoption. Imagine, because it can't be 30 or 60 folds for God. It must be 100-fold. He produces, of course, because the 144 produce fruit. The foolish produce fruit, but the chosen one produces the 100, the 100-fold. That is, they produce or bring forth the revelation. That is, they bring forth the whole revelation of who he is. Notice how simple it is. How to produce 100-fold? By believing the revealed word, believing in the fulfillment of his promises completely. That's something, I don't understand this, but I believe it. I don't understand this, but I believe it. you see how the picture is opening up. Oh, but this, and after a while, oh, but now I understand. And what I thought I didn't understand, now I do, since everything is being open. But notice, anyone would say at the beginning, no, don't read those things that are Brother William's writing. I'm not going to spread that because that is something private there. That, and notice, now they are placing it in their hands and they're not even believing it. See? You can teach them what one thing or another thing means, and the one who is not a chosen one can read it and will produce nothing. He can be there in their face and not believe it. But the chosen one does. That is what we were missing. We were missing that part of the rapturing faith of the thunders. Notice where the thunders are going to be seen, and everybody was saying that they were already given. Now the fulfillment of the seven thunders is a reality, because in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, he was saying the rapturing faith is given by the seven thunders. The seven thunders are giving you this, are giving you that. The seven thunders are preaching. But afterward he said, the seven thunders will be spoken under the tent. But wait a minute, didn't you say it was spoken potentially back then? Now is the reality. But in that simple way like that, that's right. The same thing the archangel said to Brother Branham. Their conversation was this one. He was standing here, looking toward there. That is why I didn't have no one. Well, no, I had, but what he would have done, the little room is there. What he did is this. The hand moved in front of me, and he pointed, look, look where it's going. He said, that's right. And then Brother Branham says, but I don't understand why there. And right away what the angel said is, doesn't the scripture say when you... Did you notice that he didn't begin to explain things, to say this is so? He went to the scripture. And everything that is being spoken there is scriptural. Everything is based on these two messages. One that is the platform of what was going to happen. And now we are talking about the definitions of the one who had access the book of the truth written there. In other words, let us say that there is also being fulfilled that about the two sticks. If one puts it in terms of a message, that of the sticks. To keep on breaking it down. That was on Thursday. But it is something so great that one wouldn't want to end because of the greatness of this time. Since everything is the fulfillment of what has already been spoken. That is why it is something without end. That is why he says, if someone enters fully into this message, he will be thrown into eternity without knowing it. That is, without realizing it. How? Well, they are entering into the deep waters of the Word. Of course they are going to be adopted, transformed. This is way past algebra. This has already entered physics with geometry, with trigonometry, with the most three that there can be. Now it's not with ABC. For one to learn, you have to know some formulas. And if you don't have the formula, like formula of H2O, if now you don't have the formula of the Son of Man with his angels, H2O, regarding the ministries, he who doesn't have that formula, he cannot obtain the water, the revelation. He has to have that formula to obtain the revelation. However, that visit of Elohim with Gabriel and Michael back then to Abraham is what is repeated now. There is the key. If you're able to understand what happened there, that is the key part. Elohim in the midst of the people. That is something. but he shows up in the form what that visitation is. There is the key. The time he was there with Abraham, we will
La clave
already see it
importante.
in
Que estuvo él allí
another audio.
con Abraham.
But it is great.
Es tremendo.
Notice
Mira lo que está pasando.
what is happening
Es eso mismo
is
actualizado.
that same thing updated.
Amén.
Y ya una vez
And once you see it,
él no le encubrió
he
a
didn't
Abraham,
conceal from Abraham
o sea, se lo
what he was going to do. In other words, he made it known to him.
Amén.
God bless you. May God bless you.